The Russian military says it has successfully test-launched a nuclear-capable ballistic missile from its newest submarine. This follows President Vladimir Putin's decision to withdraw from the worldwide nuclear test ban. Well, Senator Lindsey Graham says that he expects the Senate will pass a bill that includes aid for both Israel and Ukraine.
I am for Ukraine support. We can't pull the plug on Ukraine, let Putin get away with this. There goes Taiwan if you do that.
This comes just days after the House passed a $14 billion aid package only for Israel. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said the bill will not be taken up in chamber. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says he's considering a new military strategy to move forward faster in the war. BBC News correspondent Jenny Hill has more.
We already know from the authorities in Kherson that Russian attacks have increased significantly in recent weeks. One official told us that whereas in September they were getting 1 or 2 aerial bombs a day, now on average it's 40. I've also met in the last few days people who've fled the region. They describe terrifying conditions, having to get out of their homes quickly, often under fire, carrying with them little more than the clothes that they're wearing. President Zelenskyy has once again insisted that this war is not at a stalemate. But up and down that front line, Ukrainian and Russian troops are locked in bitter and bloody battles, often over a few miles of territorial gain. Mr. Zelenskyy is also under pressure here over the deaths of around 20 soldiers killed in a missile strike as they gathered for an awards ceremony on Friday, extraordinarily in the open air, close to the front line. There is anger and disbelief here that such an event was allowed to take place because it's well known that Russian troops, and Ukrainian ones too, use surveillance drones to monitor one another's activities. An investigation is now underway and Mr. Zelenskyy has said it must establish whether any improper orders were given. He's described the event as a tragedy which could have been avoided. Back to you, Anne-Marie.
Jenny Hill, thank you. So joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor. Great to see you again, sir. So, Ambassador, in an interview with Meet the Press this weekend, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy was asked about some comments made by his top general about the counteroffensive essentially being at a stalemate. And I thought it was an interesting argument, Vlad and Ambassador, because he essentially said both sides are benefiting and victims of the technology of warfare, that they are aware, they're each watching each other. And so for every move they make, there's a counter move. And so they're barely sort of, they're moving at kilometers, a day or whatever. So it's really nothing can change unless there's some sort of technological leap. It was essentially his argument. I want to play how Volodymyr Zelenskyy responded to that.
I don't think that this is a stalemate. It's a check on the part of the Russian army. But before that, we did a lot. We had done a lot. We were in a difficult situation. They thought that they would checkmate us, but this didn't happen.
I want to talk a little bit about his response. Of course, it's not in his best interest to broadcast that all of the support that Ukraine has been getting from around the world isn't enough necessarily. Right. That you want to back a winner essentially. So I want to get your take on what Zelenskyy said and what his top commander has to say about the nature of where this war is now.
Well, Anne-Marie, I was there. I talked to General Zelenskyy in Kyiv about 3 weeks ago in his office, where he described that same thing that he mentioned in his article. Mm-hmm. That is the ability for both sides to see what is going on the other side. And he emphasized the importance of technology, just as you just said, to enable that. He looks for a breakthrough in technology. He looks for a way to break through this stalemate, which he did call it. There's no doubt about that. But it is also true that other parts of the Ukrainian military are having success. They've moved across the Dnieper River down near Kherson. They hadn't done that in a long time. They've been able to move across. They've attacked the Kerch Strait again. There's a shipyard in the Kerch Strait that they've attacked in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov. So this is not a stalemate in that regard. That is, there are initiatives that the Ukrainians are taking to put the Russians on the defensive. And they absolutely do need the kinds of weapons that you just described in order for them to succeed.
Ambassador, as we just pointed out, that clip came from NBC's Meet the Press. NBC is also reporting that there have been conversations behind closed doors with European officials and Volodymyr Zelenskyy about possibly having to come to some sort of an agreement with Russia, possible peace talks with Russia. It's not been confirmed by us, but could that be potentially happening? And I guess for a lot of people, they're going to wonder why these discussions didn't take place earlier, if it appears that there's this stalemate and that neither is going to gain the upper hand. And we're talking about thousands of people who have lost their lives in the midst of this stalemate.
Vlad, you're of course right. However, there's no indication, there's no public indication, no real indication from either government, either the Ukrainians or the Russians, that they're prepared to negotiate at this point. The Ukrainians do believe that they can take the initiative, that they can move across the river, that they can go down towards Crimea. They still have that possibility. They know that the weapons that we're sending are coming. The F-16s, the larger tanks, the longer range weapons. They know these are coming, so they've got that as a possibility. They're not ready to negotiate, and the Russians have given no indication that they're ready to negotiate whatsoever.
You know, part of the challenge for Ukraine throughout this entire war is, you know, they ask for more equipment, better equipment, and you know, the West has been hesitant to agree to those requests right away. What's happening now, or the concern is, the general says that the concern is during the stalemate, Russia will be able to rebuild its military while Ukraine continues to ask for the weaponry that it needs, and it may come too late.
So, Emery, they have asked, and finally, the United States and NATO have agreed to virtually almost all of the requests. Now the question is, can they get those weapons there in time? Just as you say, they need to get there now. They've agreed to the F-16s. They've agreed to these long-range missiles called ATACMS. You know, so the United States and NATO have agreed to these requests from the Ukrainians, but now the question is getting them there in time, in the volume, to enable the Ukrainians to use them and to break through and to push the Russians back.
Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, Oksana Markarova, was on CBS Space Nation yesterday, where she talked about Ukraine's continued need for support from Washington. Let's play a bit of that.
We do need ammunition, we do need air defense, we need all of the capabilities that we have been receiving and we were discussing. And of course, you know, right now, all the eyes are on U.S. Congress because we need the continuation of that.
So the point there that the ambassador is making, we need the United States Congress to come through. So far, they've come through for aid for Israel, but this is still something that, as far as Senate Republicans and Democrats are concerned, an imperative, but many in the Congress, where this bill needs to first pass, are not as convinced when it comes to aid to Ukraine.
Well, the House of Representatives is divided. You're absolutely right. However, I think they would even say in the House, in the House of Representatives, that if you get this bill to the floor, it will pass. This combined bill of aid for Israel and aid for Ukraine, it will pass on the floor. There is bipartisan support, strong bipartisan support. The question is the actual getting it to the vote. But you're right, the Senate is solid. Both the Republicans and Democrats have made it very clear they're only going to pass this bill with support, strong support, military and financial support for the Ukrainians if it is combined with the Israel vote.
All right, Ambassador William Taylor, always great to have you, sir, for your perspective. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Vlad.